Good afternoon and welcome. This is News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. Federal Investigative Panel releases preliminary report into Plateau School collapse. 13 states fix dates for council elections following Supreme Court's ruling on local government autonomy. Niger Republic loses defense cooperation with Germany. Details shortly. Welcome. Our coverage begins with update on Ashura procession. The Islamic movement of Nigeria have held a procession to mark the 2024 Islamic Day of Ashura despite a police order urging them to discontinue their walk. The Federal Capital Territory Police Command, in a statement by the spokesperson Josephine Ade, banned the procession, saying it was, or rather that it has, in the past disrupted public peace. She added that the command will deploy every legal and available means to stop the movement from violating the directive. Now our correspondent Marvelous Obomanu is on ground monitoring the procession and now joins us. Marvelous, good morning to you.
Yeah, blessed morning.
Thank you indeed. Now Marvelous, please, if you can give us an update with the events that are playing out at the Ashura Day Walk, would be very glad.
All right, just about 30 minutes ago, members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, popularly called Shiite, held a procession to commemorate the 2024 Islamic month of Ashura. And also, they are saying that this particular procession is also to stand in solidarity with their brothers in Palestine to call for an end of the bloodbath happening in Palestine. Of course, you are aware that this procession was held defiling the FCT police order not to hold any demonstration here in the nation's capital. But members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, despite that police order, went ahead to hold their procession. But what I can tell you that this is one of the most peaceful demonstrations held by the Islamic movement of Nigeria recorded in history. I mean, this particular one is violence-free. All they did was to hold a procession from Wuse Market down to where I'm standing, which is called Beggar Roundabout, which is within the city center. It was violence-free. All they did was just to walk, converge here, thank each other for coming out, and urge others to go back to their respective home, and they left. Just 20 minutes as they left, we saw security agencies made up of the Civil Defense, Nigerian Army, and other security agencies converge here just to disperse the protesters, those marking the procession, sorry. But unfortunately, before they arrived, they've held their procession and left. So I can tell you that it was a violence-free procession compared to what we normally see whenever Shiite is holding their process.
Well, Marvelous, thank you very much. You did say that it's violence-free, but in the past we have recorded instances where there were clashes between the protesters or the people that are in the procession and the police. Now, this year you're saying that there's none of that. However, is that the end of the procession? Is there anything else to mark the procession this year for the Islamic Day of Ashura?
According to them, what they are doing is just to hold this particular procession, which is to do two things: to commemorate that particular month of Ashura, and also to stand, in solidarity with their brothers in Palestine, and also to call for an end to what they call a bloodbath happening in Palestine. So this is, for all we know, this is the only activity they are holding to mark the month of Ashura. And I can tell you, that the police had initially said they shouldn't go ahead with any planned procession because of the long history that the Shiites have with their protest, which always end in violence. Remember a few years back when a Channels reporter who was then a UCO member was killed during the Shiite protest. So we've also seen some protests that have ended in violence, but today's procession is actually violence-free.
Well, thank you very much, Marvelous. Obomanu, let's hope it continues to be so.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can indeed. We got everything. Thank you indeed. Now to political updates, where the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Victor Okojumbo, has denounced the resolution passed by the Martins Amaole-led House that forbids Governor Siminalayi Fubara from using public monies. During Tuesday's plenary session, Okujumbo claimed that the actions of Amawale and 24 others whom he identified as former House members were baseless and illogical. He contended that the group lacked both the moral and legal authority to prevent the governor from using taxpayers' money. After Amawale and 24 other individuals defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress in December 2023, he argued that they are no longer members of the Assembly. Now to discuss this further, I'm being joined by Sheriff Mulude, a Niger Delta activist. Sheriff, you're welcome. Good morning, or rather good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. Now, if you tell us what the legal grounds for Victor Okujumbo's assertions are that a Mawale-led group lacks the capacity to bar Governor Fubara from spending public funds, we'd be grateful.
Well, first and foremost, I am not a lawyer, so I may not be able to give you the legal perspective to these issues. But however, I also don't want to preempt the judiciary. I heard of the Supreme Court decision over this matter because the issues are in the table of the judiciary. However, as a citizen of Nigeria, as a citizen from the Niger Delta, a resident of Port Harcourt, I felt that it is very important that this issue need to be addressed by the actors of this saga in Rivers State. What the people of Rivers State need at this moment is peace and good governance. And so Martins and Jumbo saga, let me put it that way, is worrisome, because these are issues that are already in the court. And we believe that the Supreme Court, in a short moment, we're going to give people-oriented judgment that will give permanent peace to the people of Rivers State. Rivers State, at this moment, need good governance. So there is no way the Martin-led House of Assembly will say shut down all budget, all financial budget. It is not possible because there is no vacuum in governance. There is no vacuum in the government house of Rivers State. The governor must perform his duty. He is the duly elected governor of Rivers State. So he must carry out his responsibility. And in carrying out those responsibilities, he must judiciously use the resources for the betterment of the people. And yes, today their positions is in contentions in the various courts. So I don't want to preempt it, like as I said. So let the court decide whether they are still members of the House of Assembly or they are no longer members of Assembly because they are defected from the original party that brought them to the House of Assembly. And since they have moved to the other party, it is the Supreme Court that will let us know whether they are still members of the House of Assembly or they have lost their seats.
So, big question here is what options does the Fubara-led governorship now have if they were to follow the resolutions of either factions, whether to use monies, taxpayers' monies, or not to?
Well, first, the governor have the right to use the resources of the state, which is the taxpayers' money, for the development of the state. Like as I said, there is no vacuum in governance. There is no vacuum in the Rivers State House of Assembly. The Fubara is the executive governor of Rivers State. So he must and will use the money for the people of Rivers State and for the development of the state. So that political embargo placed by the Martins group is baseless, is worthless to the best of my knowledge. And so the governor should do everything within the ambit of the law to serve the people of Rivers. He should concentrate on governance. He should concentrate on peace building in Rivers State, irrespective of every form of provocation, irrespective of every form of harassment, attack, and other. They are politicians. They know what they are doing. But for us, as a people, it should give dividend of democracy to the people of Rivers State.
So it's a thing where taxpayers' monies gets involved, especially in this case when it comes to Rivers State and governance. In the past many weeks, or I dare say many months, it seems like the state has been left ungoverned while the governor and detractors, in quote, have taken over whatever instance is happening at any time as it continues to evolve. So the big question now is there any end to the debacle that we see from Rivers State? Now it's beginning to involve the people as their taxpayers' money are being, well, it's being tossed around. Who gets to spend it or not? Where is the end? Is it in sight at all?
Definitely there is an end to all these brouhaha in River States. And that is very soon. And like as I said, the Supreme Court will going to give people-oriented judgment that will lay all this to rest. It's only the Supreme Court. But then our appeal is that Nigerians have hope in the Supreme Court. Nigerians are very patient, waiting for the outcome of the Supreme Court, because it's the Supreme Court that we're going to lay it to rest. Because the actors in this case, they are all holding strong to their position. No one and nobody intend to say, okay, for the masses, for the sake of the masses. For the sake of the masses, the government of River State need to continue to serve the people. And that is why the people elected him. That is why he is ruling. So for now, he should continue until maybe the Supreme Court tell us otherwise.
Well, thank you very much, Sheriff. Glad to have had you here on the news.
Thank you.
Now, 13 states have fixed dates for local government elections in the aftermath of last Thursday's Supreme Court judgment, which prohibited federal allocation to council being administered by caretaker committees. The states that have commenced council poll preparations include Kaduna, Kogi, Bauchi, Katsina, Osun, Enugu, Benue, Rivers, Jigawa, Imo, Kebbi, Abia, and Anambra states. On Tuesday, the Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission scheduled the council poll for October 19, 2024. The Supreme Court had declared it unconstitutional for state governors to hold funds allocated for the local government councils. In the judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the 7-man panel held that the 774 local government councils in the country should manage their funds themselves. It's going to break now. We'll have more when we get back. And you're welcome back. The Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria has praised the Supreme Court's ruling granting financial autonomy to local governments. The institution believes the decision will boost government at the grassroots level. In a statement by the acting registrar and chief executive of the institute, Folake Osho, CITN urged local government chairmen and officials to support the upcoming tax reforms proposed by the Presidential Committee on Tax and Fiscal Policy Reforms. The statement also said the ruling is a positive development that promises improved governance and development. It added that the autonomy is expected to lead to better service delivery, improved economic activities, and reduced rural-urban migration and criminality. The CITN called for accountability and transparency in the use of resources to ensure the benefits of this autonomy are felt by all. Earlier, we were joined by the news on the news by George Ashiru, public affairs analyst.
Government autonomy is a definite part of our constitution. It's something that we should have practiced right from 1999, when the constitution was perfected and elections were held for a new democratic dispensation. Fact of the matter is that when you have a democratic dispensation, which is starting anew, there's going to be a lot of, there will not be necessarily seamless movement, osmosis of ideas and practice in terms of implementation. And that's what we got. We got a sense that the federal government did not know how to devolve power down to the state and the local government, and then states did not know how to do the same. But see, we've got 25 years back off of that. And by now, I believe that every tier of government should have known that this is what the Constitution intended, that every tier of government should have as much independence as possible, so that the delivery of the democracy and also the benefits to the electorate can be felt directly by the people who are electing these tiers of government. So for us, this is definitely the way forward, but there's still a lot of issues that need to be resolved, but definitely it starts in the right direction.
Away from that now, Governor Abba Yusuf has signed the Kano State Emirate Council Establishment Bill 2024 into law. The legislation passed by the State House of Assembly aims to bridge the gap between the grassroots and the government while sustaining the rich cultural values and norms of the people. The new law establishes second-class emirates councils in Rano, Gaya and Karaye, each responsible for specific local government areas. Governor Yusuf said the Rano Emirates consist of Rano, Kibia and Bunkure local government areas. Gaya Emirates consist of Gaya, Al-Basu and Ajingi local government areas, while Karaye Emirates consists of Karaye and Rogo local government areas. According to the governor, these councils will have powers to advise the Emir of Kano on matters related to the maintenance of public order and boundary disputes within their jurisdictions. Now joining us on the news is Mohammed Abdullahi, a public affairs analyst. Mohammed, good afternoon to you. All right, Mohammed, I believe that you might be muted. If you can unmute your device.
Yeah, good afternoon. My pleasure.
Good. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Now, Governor Abba Yusuf has recently signed the Kano State Emirate Council Establishment Bill 2024 into law. This creates second-class emirate councils in Rano, Gaya, and also Karaye. So, given the historic and cultural significance of these new councils, how do you see this affecting the traditional power dynamics in Kano State?
Thank you. I think it's simple. In my own opinion, I think the current administration is also running from what happened. In the last administration, where we have all the vested traditional powers is vested in, the Emir of Kano, who before now was the only Emir in Kano environs, even though historically, like what the government or historically like what the culture paints is that before the division of Jigawa from Kano State, there used to be second-class emirs in Gumel, in Hadeja, and so on and so forth. But I think, in my opinion, the current administration is running from the fact that yes, perhaps there might be too much power vested in the only emir in Kano. So it's with this creation of second-class emirs, it will be checkmated as well, because they also have powers like you read out, even though they are answerable to the Emir of Kano, who will be permanently the chairman of the traditional council in Kano. But again, in bringing to, in terms of culture, to the downtrodden and nearness to members of, citizens in Kano, yes. People in Rogo, people in Karaye, people and all other places where you have second-class emirs, it will be easier. Traditional councilship and so on and so forth will be easier accessible to them compared to when they have to travel to the cosmopolitan area, in Kano to seek the councillorship of the Emir of Kano. Yeah, so it's quite advantageous. But again, like the administration keeps saying, the current administration keeps saying, why they established this is the fact that historically, like I mentioned earlier, yes, there is one Emir of Kano, but there's also sub-emirs who have been there before the division of Kano. Jigawa was taken out of Kano. So hopefully it will resolve the crisis. Hopefully, again, Kano citizens will have more access to traditional councillorship and so on and so forth.
So let's talk about these, as it is, lieutenant emirs. We saw what happened between Adebayo and also El Rufai, where people were either for or against either or the other. Now, when it comes to these second-class emirs, are we perhaps also sure whether these emirs have the same tenets as the emir himself, which would be Sanusi Lamido?
Yes, it's very clear. The law is very, very clear, even though it's still a bit vague as well in terms of, those people that perhaps in terms of succession, for instance, the new law is not clear what the succession line will be. Perhaps it will be just direct appointment from the governor, like we saw yesterday or early this morning, and so on and so forth. Because in terms of the emir of Kano himself, there is the kingmaker's seat, and put forward some names to the governor before appointment. But in this new case, for instance, now, perhaps there will be amendment to the law. I'm very sure about that, But to answer your question clearly. These second-class emirs are answerable totally to the emir of Kano. That's what the law says. Yes, whatsoever the thought is, their thought process is, their jurisdiction and every other thing, they have to take into cognizance what the emir of Kano, he is the chief, he's like the CNC. So they dare not, go against his decision and so on and so forth. So yes, I see it will be very difficult for crisis to arise because it is clearly there that they are second-class emirs. Even though they they want to call them emirs, but they are typically like the entries of emir of Kano in their respective jurisdictions. So I see no reason for any fear of disloyalty and so on and so forth.
No, hoping that the word lieutenant emir would catch on soon. But the establishment of these second-class emirates now, it's come amid plenty of legal disputes over the jurisdiction of the state government in chieftaincy issues. How do you think that this new law will impact these court matters, and what are the potential legal implications therein?
Yeah, to start with, I think 3 or 4 days ago, even the Kano High Court has ruled that the deposed emirs remain deposed, and the governor is actually in charge, and even the new law establishing this new emirate, and in fact, the new law, the old law that was repealed and the new law passed in to bring back Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is affirmed. So, and we all know in Nigeria, everything traditional council is vested in the state government. Yeah. So I think it's just a clear pathway. And perhaps the new administration of the NNPP in Kano is putting everything in place to make sure that, there is no loopholes for opposition and other parties to cash in upon. But I understand also that perhaps the camp of the deposed Emir Edo Bayero will want to go further. Perhaps maybe to the appeal court or even to the Supreme Court. But like I said earlier, with the affirmation of the Kano State High Court and, the fact that, yes, the governor and the administration is in order, I think the court actions has been put in place. But hopefully, not hopefully, but I am sure with what we've been hearing that the other camp will also take the case further. So it behoves on the Nigerian judiciary, the court to do the right thing. So I don't think I want to comment on what the court might do or not.
Okay, then. We won't let you. But one more question for you before I let you go. Let's talk about the chieftaincy turbulence in Kano. It's drawn plenty of parallels between it and the crisis inside of Rivers State. How would you compare the recent developments in Kano with that of Rivers State, the political issues in Rivers State, particularly in terms of governance, public response, and the role of traditional institutions, since we see here that tradition is being stripped away and instead politics being given the upper hand when it comes to decisions in terms of making these decisions that are supposed to be cultural?
Yes, even though there is a bit of similarity, but it's actually distinct, what is happening between the two states. Distinct in the fact that, in Kano is more of a fact that the new administration on ground is actually, I would say, almost 80 to 90% in charge, if not 100%. But in Rivers State, is not the case. The governor there is really not in charge. He's actually fighting the members of the House of Assembly. He's had his godfather, former Governor Wike, also on his neck, so it's quite challenging. So he's like, in the middle. He's had, people to fight, and then he's had supporters, perhaps even in the traditional rulers. There are people who support him and people who are not. We've seen that he's stripped some people of their, headship in terms of holding the traditional council in Rivers State. But the case is quite different in Kano. Like I said, to at least 80 to 90%, if not more, the new government is in charge, and that's why it's quite different, the scenario. So yes, there are similarities, but again, I think what is important, in my own opinion, is that we give traditional, rulers a lot more role to play in our nation. we've just allowed them to become toys in the hands of politicians, particularly state governors, who can do and undo. You never can tell, even in Kano, if God forbid, or perhaps if anything happens, perhaps in the next 4 years and NMPP is not in power anymore, there might be recourse to another imbroglio here and there in terms of traditional rulership. So I don't think this is good for the traditional rulership in Nigeria. There must be we should have a clear constitutional role for traditional rulers like it used to be in the First and Second Republic, rather than what we are having now. There is too much involvement of traditional rulership in politics and vice versa that makes it very difficult for them to want to, govern their localities properly like it used to be. So I think we need to checkmate that, and we need to amend that in our constitution in order to make a head forward.
Abdullahi Mohammed, thank you very much. Good you joined us here on the news today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Now, the Nigeria Labour Congress has issued a stern warning to the National Assembly, threatening a month-long nationwide strike if plans to deregulate the national minimum wage are approved. NLC President Joe Ajaero made the announcement in Lagos, saying the move would grant state governors the power to determine wages, effectively abolishing the minimum wage. Ajaero emphasized that organized labor will not accept a situation that forces workers into poverty. He stressed the importance of equal pay for equal work, regardless of location, citing the constitutional provision for equal pay for equal work. The NLC is urging the National Assembly to reject the proposal and ensure fair wages for all workers. The threat comes as negotiations for a new minimum wage continue. We're going to break now, and when we return, more news here on News Central. And we have breaking news at the moment. The Edo State House of Assembly has appealed a federal high court judgment overturning the impeachment of former Deputy Governor Philip Shuaibu. Now, the Assembly filed a stay of execution pending appeal. Shuaibu was impeached on April 2024, if you remember, following allegations of misconduct, including perjury and leaking government secrets. Now, he was removed from office by a vote of 18-1. The impeachment followed a report by a 7-man investigative panel. Governor Godwin Obaseki appointed Omobayo Marvelous Godwins as the new deputy. The appeal seeks to reinstate Shuaibu's impeachment, which was set aside by the Federal High Court. The case is ongoing, and the outcome is still pending at the moment, but we'll follow up with that story and bring you every single detail as it unfolds. Now to security updates. The Edo State Police Command is urging citizens to disregard a viral video circulating on social media, which appears to show separatist groups issuing eviction ultimatums to herders in the Igboho area. Police Public Relations Officer Adewale Osifeso says the video is a deliberate attempt to incite violence and disrupt the peace in the state. According to Osifeso, no eviction notice has been issued by any individual or group, and the police are working to prevent any unrest. In the meantime, the Edo State Commissioner of Police has deployed additional personnel and resources to the area to ensure the safety of all residents. Residents are advised to maintain calm and ignore the misleading information. Nairametrics and News Central TV have teamed up for Market Pulse, a new stock market show focused on financial literacy and investors' education. To introduce the program, they paid a courtesy visit to Nigerian Exchange, where they were received by the CEO, Temi Popola. News Central's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasami Peter, has more.
News Central and Nairametrics visited the Nigerian Exchange Group to introduce Market Pulse and discuss its potential benefits to the capital market.
The direction of the conversation now. So our step one, like I said, is Market Pulse, which is News Central in collaboration, partnership with Nairametrics. That is excellent platform that we've created. Both platforms will be using it as a source of information for the public. The second one is the coverage of the market, which we now have to dedicate individuals that will cover and make sure that nothing happens here that we don't have it covered.
I think the way we envision this, there should be a lot more than just that 30 minutes in a day. It's not enough, but at least that's a start. There will be coverage not just on traditional TV. You're also going to have a social media angle to it, because we know there's a lot of eyeballs on social media, a lot of eyeballs on platforms like YouTube, TikTok. We're going to go to all those places. And it's going to be a fun show. Kay doesn't even know how crazy I am with ideas like this. It's going to be a real fun show. It's not just a show where you would have someone from Chapel Hill come in and speak grammar. You're going to have Davido here come and talk about stocks. That's how we envision it.
Responding, the NGX Group CEO, Temi Bupola, expressed his enthusiasm for such collaborations.
That as many partnerships like this as we can find, without a doubt in my mind, is probably the only way that we have as a business. And it hasn't been lost on me since I moved back also about the power that the right partnerships with media can help you, sort of do.
The exchange boss also took the opportunity to promote the exchange new platform, NGX Invest, which could be a valuable tool for viewers interested in investing.
Today, there are about 4 publicly announced transactions, 2 rights issuances, 2 public offers, all 4 transactions today. Very easily, www.invest.ngxgroup.com, you'd be able to access any of those securities. In under 2 minutes, start to finish, you expect that you'd have been done investing. So, we are now spreading the word out, trying to make sure that, investors see this as one channel.
Market Pulse, a new stock market show that debuted on July 15th, airs weekdays at 4 p.m. on News Central TV. The program offers in-depth analysis of the Nigerian exchange, along with insights into selected African markets and global trends. It leverages News Central's broadcast reach and Nairametrics' financial expertise to create a valuable resource for anyone interested in the Nigerian and global financial landscape. In Lagos, for News Central, Perpetua Fasami Peter.
University of Ibadan students are protesting a new electricity rationing policy. The university management has limited power supply to 10 hours daily, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. or rather 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. The students are rejecting this schedule and have been protesting since Tuesday night. They demand a return to full power supply, citing difficulties in studying and living on campus. The university's Works and Maintenance Department announced the policy approved by the Vice-Chancellor. Students are arguing the management to reconsider, saying the rationing is unbearable. The protest continues, with students calling for a reversal of the decision. Now, the investigative panel set up by the federal government on the collapsed 2-story school building in Jos Plateau State has released a preliminary report on the sad incident. The 2-story building housing Saint Academy, located at the Busa Buji community in Jos North local government area of the state, collapsed on Friday at about 8:30 a.m., claiming 22 persons and left about 154 trapped persons who were evacuated to various hospitals. Director General of the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute, Professor Samson Duna, said the report of the panel, headed by Professor O.F. Job of the Building Department of the University of Jos, showed that the physical observation of the building looked distressed, while weak materials were used for the building. He said the reports also depicted that the quality of the concrete used to construct the building was in doubt, as there was no boundary between the concrete and the steel reinforcement. And still in more news, German Foreign Affairs Minister Annalena Baerbock says Niger Republic will no longer have cooperation with the German military due to a lack of trust in relations with the military regime. Baerbock made the comment during a visit to nearby Côte d'Ivoire. Germany already announced on July 6 that it will end operations at its airbase in Niger and pull out its remaining 36 troops by August 31st. Niger has been run by a military regime since a coup d'etat in July 2023, ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, who has been held as a prisoner ever since.
Zugleich unsere humanitäre Hilfe für die Menschen nicht eingestellt, weil die Menschen, auch in Niger, das Sie angesprochen haben, können nun am wenigsten für diese Situation. Und wir sind auch für die Menschen da. Und auf der anderen Seite haben wir erlebt, dass wir gerade auch mit Blick auf die russische Rolle in Mali oder jetzt auch in Niger mit der Unterstützung, die wir zuvor im Sicherheitsbereich übernommen hatten, sei es im Polizeibereich als auch im Ausbildungsbereich oder in der UN-Mission MINUSMA, nicht so weitermachen können, weil die Verlässlichkeit, die vorher da war, nicht mehr gegeben war.
Nous souhaitons que ce pays soit aidé dans la mesure du possible. Au plan humanitaire, car les populations en ont besoin. Et nous avons évoqué aussi les risques que cela pose à la Côte d'Ivoire, surtout à la frontière nord. Comme vous le savez, nous recevons déjà plus de 60 000 réfugiés du Burkina, et ceci est un poids pour l'économie.
Now, the United Nations says talks between a UN envoy and delegations from both warring parties in Sudan are continuing in Geneva this week, with its focus on humanitarian aid and protecting civilians. War has ravaged since April 2023 between the Sudanese regular army under Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the Parliamentary Rapid Response, or rather Rapid Support Forces, led by his former deputy Mohammed Hamdan Daglo. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' personal envoy for Sudan, Ramtane Ramanra, invited delegations from the army and the RSF for talks which began on Thursday.
Crisis is the worst displacement crisis in the world now, with around 13 million people displaced. Over 10 million are internally displaced populations, and over 2 million are seeking refuge in neighboring countries, including Chad, that hosts over 700,000. The main reason they left Sudan now is hunger, is famine. And this is the main reason why they left. They said it's not insecurity, it's not lack of access to basic services, but
Now, King Charles III will on Wednesday outline Labour's first programme for government in a decade and a half when the United Kingdom Parliament formally reopens following the July 4 election. As Labour takes control of the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer will prioritise reviving the ailing economy in his legislative plans for the next months. King Charles III will deliver the proposals from a golden throne in the House of Lords upper chamber during a lavish ceremony. The speech is expected to over 35 bills, including measures to enforce public spending rules and others to prevent a repeat of the utility bill price hikes that triggered the UK's recent cost of living crisis. And in Australia, Australia has promised to hold Russia to account for the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 10 years ago that killed nearly 300 people. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Australia will not be deterred in their commitments to hold Russia to account. 10 years ago, Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 was shut down over war-torn eastern Ukraine as it flew from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. The crash came in the early stages of the war in which Moscow seized the Crimean Peninsula from Kiev and stoked an insurgency by pro-Russian rebels in Ukraine's east.
Resolution condemning the attack, and that gave international backing for an independent investigation carried without Russian veto. And we will not be deterred in our commitment to hold Russia to account.
Let's go on a short break now, and we've got some more news, especially business and sports, when we get back. And just before sports, we have breaking news. The Senate has removed Ali Ndume as its chief whip due to unguided utterances in the media. He is replaced by Tahir Mungunu, and we will bring you subsequent details as it commences. Now moving on to sports now. Nigeria's under-20 women's national team, the Falconets, will take on Australia and also Mexico in friendly matches as part of their preparations for the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. The friendly fixtures, according to reports, will be held in Colombia, where the final phase of their training camp will take place next month. The Falconets commenced their World Cup preparations in Abuja 2 weeks ago, with 32 players vying for a chance to represent Nigeria. Nigeria is placed in the difficult group alongside three-time champions Germany, Venezuela and Korea. And a group of former players and officials of Choir United issued a 7-day ultimatum to the management of the club to pay their outstanding 196 million naira, which they claim is their collective sign-on fees owed from the 2014-15 season. The ultimatum was communicated to the club management by the group's legal counsel, who stated that they had exhausted all avenues to get the club management to pay the outstanding payments of the group. Counsel to the group, YY Ajibade, decried the response of the club management, who he said paid a paltry 5 million naira, which represented 2.4% of the outstanding sum of 196 million naira. The letter stated that this had put members of the aggrieved group in dire financial situations, with many of them unable to meet their financial obligations after rendering their service to the club. And in tennis, Nigeria's Quadri Aruna and Egypt's Omar Assar have been seeded in 14th and 16th place, respectively, in the men's singles event of Paris 2024 Olympic Games, meaning they will start their campaign in the second round. According to the International Table Tennis Federation, the seeding was based on the world ranking release on Tuesday, which saw Aruna retain his 19th position in the world, just as Assar is ranked 22nd. Nigeria's Olajide Omotayo will know his first round opponent when the draw takes place on the 24th of July. And that's it this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. A federal investigative panel released parliamentary report into Plateau school collapse. 13 states fixed dates for council elections following Supreme Court's ruling on local government autonomy. And Niger Republic loses defense cooperation with Germany. Now do remember to send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on your screen now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.